Welcome back to Harbor. Well, of course, that harrowing story of an 11-year-old girl kidnapped and then held hostage for an amazing 18 years is even more harrowing because the man accused was a registered sex offender. More than that, he had regular visits from parole officers. So why wasn't he found out? Is our government doing enough to keep children safe from sex offenders? Joining me right now is former prosecutor Wendy Murphy. Wendy, we're off our usual terrain here of talking national politics, but this is about politics. It's about the ability of government to protect us, to do the most basic thing in our society, keep us safe. Why was a character like this out? He kidnapped someone. He raped someone, the same person, then he got out. Then apparently he was taken back in on a parole violation. During the time he had been holding this young girl as sort of a white slave out the back of his house and having 2 children with her. How do you get away with that in America?
First of all, you're absolutely right. It's a political issue, and it takes leadership and a commitment to the equality of women and children as citizens in this country to actually do right in our legal system. And what I mean by do right is make sure that when you're locking up, arresting, prosecuting, doing parole supervision around men who target women and children for violence, that you don't give out discounts because the people they pick on are somewhat politically marginalized. Look, Chris, this country. How many
has anybody who's ever? I want to ask a question because I think it's different. Somebody who murders their spouse after a 20-year fight is a unique state of horror, but it's passionate, and we sort of understand that that's probably not a life of crime. It's something that can be dealt with maybe a 10-year imprisonment, 20-year prison sentence. But there's a certain recidivism rate with these sex offenders, isn't there? It's something like 100%.
Yeah, and I'm only for a moment going to give you a pass on the comment about the guy who kills his wife.
I'm trying to explain that there's uniqueness to this crime.
I know, but I just can't let that go. I'm sorry, Chris. I understand your point. But look, here's what sex offenders mean to us, and particularly to women and children. They are prolific. They are mobile. They are predatory. They are opportunistic. And studies show, and you can read this in Anna Salter's book, Predators. It's all there. Studies show that the average sex offender has over 100 different victims during his lifetime, okay? That's why they need to go away forever. And nonetheless, our legal system doles out such deep discounts. Joe Biden, when he was then a senator, submitted a report to Congress in the 1990s that said, on average, rapists spend less than 2% of rapists spend even 1 day behind bars, and on average, all sex offenders spend way less time behind bars than people who commit property crimes. That's how little respect we have for women and children in this country. You bet.
Okay, let me get back to the point. I'm not going to let you take a free shot at me either here. If a woman knocks her husband off, kills her husband because after 20 years of beating her, she's had enough, and she kills the guy, she's not likely to kill again. Okay? That's a crime in itself. That's what I'm saying. That's the point I was making. So don't jump on me on this stuff when I'm trying to make a distinction here about predators who are relentless and recidivist. Don't jump on me when I'm trying to make a point. I know what you're trying to do here. Don't use me as your tackling dummy. Okay? Let's get back to this case.
I didn't. I just didn't agree with you. That's all.
No, you jumped on me. Okay, let's get back to this case here. What do we do with these people when there's a track record, to use a terrible term, a sports reference? Of course, I shouldn't do that either. But what do we do with people like this? What do we do with them?
Well, number one, it would help if we actually punished them when they get caught the first time, because then they'd have less of the opportunity to commit those other 99 offenses. Number one. Number two.
But even then, how long once you let them out after, say, 5 or 10 years for a molestation case, which is not a capital case, it's not a rape case, it's a crime. So they get, how many years would they normally get for that? For some kind of child molestation, what would they normally get?
If what you mean by molestation is something not rape, a lot of states call mean rape when they say molestation.
Yeah.
But if what you mean is a pat on the fanny and they're going to get out, and that's fine, let's at least make sure that the people monitoring them, the probation officers and the parole officers, are doing their job. This guy was on parole in California, regular visits from a parole officer. The neighbors knew there were kids in the backyard, and a parole officer didn't. And they said he didn't have any parole violations during the time we had him from 1999 until last month. He had no violations. He had a big whopping violation going on in his backyard, and they cared so much about the things he had done wrong, and they were so unconcerned about what he had done wrong, they couldn't look in the backyard. That's a reflection of how little value
Wendy,
was placed on the crime he committed.
What about the judge who gave a rather lenient sentence for a fella who was supposed to have served 50 years for kidnapping and rape across interstate lines, and he reduced it dramatically after the guy wrote a letter to him?
Yeah, another big fraud on the public that happens every day in this country. He got 50 years behind bars, and everybody said, oh, isn't that terrific? That's what he deserved for what he did. Yeah. But the fraud on the public is, a few years later, he filed for a reduction, and he did 10 years, not 50. And guess what? There was no public disclosure. There was no, front page news story about the big discount he got. Now, was there? No. And that gave him the chance to go grab that little girl, impregnate her, rape her, God knows what else he did in his own backyard where the neighbors knew what was going on, but no cop, no parole officer. Are you kidding me? Why are we not marching in the streets? Here's another political issue. Where is the National Organization for Women on this? Where are the rape crisis centers? Where's the outrage that this guy was doing that under the nose of parole officers and no one saw? Are you kidding me? I want the lawsuit. I will sue that parole department so fast. They will spend so much money paying that family for what they went through. They'll never blow it again.
Wendy Murphy, that's why we had you on. Thank you very much for coming on today. And it's a big issue right now.